tonight. Mr. Shivers, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hackler.
Here.
Commissioner Leeson.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Long.
Here.
Commissioner McLaren. Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Chairman Petrick.
Here.
Commissioner Watson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, approval of the minutes from the last meeting. We've all had a chance to review these. Does anybody have any comments, questions, changes, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes from the February 28, 2019 meeting be approved as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, new business, and I think we're gonna start with item number 2, the case number 1902 or 1. I don't know how you left it on there.
You corrected me. It is supposed to be 19-2. We received our Prairie Trails plat in December and confused my numbering system. Well, I'll keep this brief. We did plat the Hatton Edition a couple years ago, and Roger had approached me a few months ago, or actually a few weeks ago, to talk about rearranging a lot of the lot lines out there. So this new plat rearranges most of the lot lines on that last one. The only easement that I should ask you about, Roger, there's a new oil well easement on there, but that might be something that was already in existence. There's no new right-of-ways, no new utility easements proposed. We're just rearranging the boundary lines. So it's relatively simple, and Roger Petzinger's here if you have any questions to ask about it.
Does anyone have any questions for Roger? I guess I do. Would you mind coming up here? Saying your name for the record, please.
Savoy Company.
Thank you. The only main question I had, we added the second oil well easement, I guess, that would be part of that lot 1. Is that correct?
Right, the well's been there all along. Actually, that 50-foot radius easement around there is, I've never seen anything in writing about those, but I've been told by the well field people that typically when they have a pulling unit in there, that's how much radius they need to get their anchors down for their pulling units. So that's been kind of a common, I guess you'd say, easement around a well. And so I thought I'd designate it just to keep people from building something up there any closer than that. And it is, you know, we're really just rearranging the lot shapes, I guess you'd say, for the businesses that are out there that are wanting to expand or take on a little more land. Boundary's the same as it was.
So they're wanting to add more than a couple businesses in with the lot 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, some of the folks are already, you know, have businesses there, and they just wanted to have a little more room to expand, I think.
Then the area to the west of that is owned by Patton is going to develop that then, I mean, he's still.
Yeah, he's still got his business there, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this one? No? Okay, at this time we'll close the public hearing for that. Do we have a motion for approval of item number 2?
Yes, I do. I move to approve the replat of the Patton Edition as presented.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
We have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hackler.
Here.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Commissioner Leeson.
Yes.
Commissioner Long.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yes.
Chairman Petrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Here, yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 1 on our agenda.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Case number 1901 for a special use permit. When you get that down, would you please present that for us, Mr. Shivers?
Yes, sir. year, Mr. Randy Ewart purchased lots at 410 and 412 North Denver directly behind his house. There were 2 deteriorating homes there that he demolished with the intent to build a garage to house his home. So what we have today is a proposal of special use permit for a 2,625 square foot building, which is 35 in width, 75 feet in depth, with 14-foot sidewalls. And that is an accessory structure. So an interesting point to make on this, we did just change the rules. Whether you go by the old rules or the new rules, this would still require a special use permit due to the square footage. However, we did receive the application prior to our last planning commission meeting, so in our eyes, we see it as going under the old rules, but like I said, either way, it's a special use permit structure. Back in August of last year, Mr. Ewart brought to us a 3,200 square foot building, which was 40 foot wide, 80 foot wide with 16-foot side walls. And that night, the planning commission recommended denial. So you can see that his new proposal is smaller by 5 feet in width, 5 feet in depth, and it's been lowered by 2 feet height of the sidewall. So this is in the middle of a residential area. The structure proposed is larger than most of the homes in the area, with a lot of them ranging from 730 square feet to about 1,500 square feet, with the majority below 1,000 square feet. So as the proposal stands today, as submitted in your packets, we would not support that just because of the sheer size of it in relation to the neighborhood and the character of the area. However, since that time, you may have noticed in my staff memo that we had some broad ideas and ways that could allow such a building to fit in with the neighborhood. So earlier this week, Scott and I met with Mr. Ewart. In your packets that I passed around, the first few pages are some pictures of Mr. Ewart's lots and some of the pictures of the neighborhood area. And in the back are a couple of sheets that we put together to give Mr. Ewart some ideas of things that we thought would help blend in with the area, similar to what was in the memo as far as looking at matching building materials to different landscaping to kind of help it blend in with the area. So earlier in the week in that meeting, Mr. Ewart definitely was interested in installing some different landscaping options, some privacy fencing and wrought iron fencing and trees to definitely dress it up and make it look good in the area. We left off our meeting talking about the different building materials to put on the face of the building. Mr. Ewart was going to look into it some more. And so with that, as submitted, we don't support the building, but like I said earlier this week, we had a good constructive conversation and brainstormed some different ideas that might help this fit in with the neighborhood. And so with that, I would love to turn over the floor to Mr. Ewart to talk more about it.
Would you please state your name for the record, even though he just said it?
Randy, basically, he said most everything I was gonna speak about. I mean, he did a pretty good job, other than the fact that, when I get done with this thing, you're not gonna see the sides, you're not gonna see the roof due to the trees, and the bushes and everything. You won't even see the garage door on the front. This picture that shows just 4 columns, that's not accurate. I'm gonna put columns clear across the front. I want it to look like the Lincoln Memorial, basically. I've already got an engineer and welder friend of mine. We've figured out a way we're gonna have the columns in the center raised up with the door. So when the door's down, it's gonna be pretty nifty setup, you know, and try to color the whole thing where it doesn't distinguish between the color of the building and the door. If I can get me a gray door, or just have it painted, whatever, you know. But basically, he covered it. I mean, I've come down 600 square foot from before and lowered the height, and you know, I want this thing to be kind of a legacy to Lincoln School. We don't have Lincoln School anymore. That's still kind of Lincoln neighborhood, and this will kind of be a memorial to that area, per se. But if you have any questions, I mean, I like the idea that he took this photograph with it, kind of superimposed it on there, and you can see since then I put in privacy fence already. That's the idea, is to run the privacy fence over to the front of it when it's done, and partially hidden by bushes and stuff. And then along the front, along the sidewalk street part, I want to have wrought iron and everything like that. But that's basically it. I mean, I want to make this thing, I want to make everybody happy and be proud that it's not an eyesore, you know. I'm open to suggestions. Anything else that you guys want to lay on me, ideas, I'm open.
I guess one question I have, and maybe it's on one of these drawings, but how far off of the street is it? Because, you know, you show a dimension from like your back property line, but, you know, what's that, you know, from the road to the front of your building?
Well, I'm 80 foot deep. I believe it's 80 foot deep from the sidewalk. No, 140 foot deep, I'm sorry.
Okay.
80 foot wide over all the two lots combined. But I'm 140 foot, and put a 10 foot from the back fence plus the 75. I'd have to do, do the math.
I got you.
But that's basically, do
I
what?
think you're 55 to 60, aren't you?
Yeah, the further back I could set it, the easier it's gonna be for me to back my bus and trailer in off the street without having to cut corners, run over my trees and, everything else.
Your driveway is 60, it looks like by this diagram.
60. Oh, 6 foot long to the building? You say?
Yes.
Yeah,
Straight to the building,
that sounds pretty accurate, yeah.
including your approach, maybe.
The approach, I was gonna have 35 foot wide approach there. There again, like I say, so I don't have to hop the curbs and stuff like
So
that.
you're 60, the building's 60 foot back.
Yeah.
From the street, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But, I don't know, I brought Mr. Proctor, Dr. Proctor here, he lives right, not next door, but he lives next house over, you're probably aware where his property is. And he's been nothing but supportive to me on my ideas and stuff like that. I really appreciate him attending too, to kind of vouch for me. And, last thing in the world I wanna do is I wanna devaluate the neighborhood or anything like that or anything. But my idea is, I'm thinking if a guy could get started in there and start progressing, maybe it'll take hold and others in the neighborhood will start taking a little stock too and might wanna sink some money into their stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I just think it could be infectious if a person can get the ball rolling, not, to try to stimulate some growth, The old neighborhood, it really hasn't changed any in my lifetime, and I've been there 35 years, Anyway,
Does anybody else have any questions for him? Thank you.
May I speak?
Yes.
He'll open the public hearing.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anybody else like to speak? Sir? Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
State your name, please.
Yes. My name is Robert Proctor. I don't live at 420 North Denver, but I happen to own that property. Okay, I've known Randy for a number of years, and I've never known him to be anything other than an honorable person. There's no question that when he demolished those two, whatever you call them, structures that were there, it improved the neighborhood dramatically. Okay. Now, I realize that's residential. And, yeah, well, over here is the Catholic Church parking lot. Not long before that, Walter's Flowers was on 3rd Street, just a half a block, right? Whatever, I can point at it here, you can't see where I point. It's that now, I guess, is a residential property. But what I want to say is, I can't think we're going to be any worse off with the property the structure that Randy proposes to put there. He's moved it back, I guess, from the street sidewalk. He's going to put some sort of vegetation in front of it. It's just going to be there. Yeah, I know. It's not going to be a business. He's not going to sell stuff like the people that it's been between my property and his, which is God knows what they sell there. Oh, wait. I do know. Not desirable. So, bottom line, way more desirable to have a garage, if you please, there. It'll be largely behind the structure that's, not sure, it's sort of, well, just south of Randy's. Largely obscured. What more can I say? I just have no objection to the thing being there, period, bottom line.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
I don't recall if I mentioned the building materials. I plan on putting the vinyl siding on. That matches my home. I believe that's one of the new rules that they wanted in place on outbuildings and stuff, to kind of keep the same architecture as the residents involved. And that's what I've got on my house is vinyl siding. And my builder, Brad Cool, I discussed it with him already, and he said that's absolutely no problem. They've done that a lot. They just add stripping of some sort, wood stripping to whatever, to give you something to nail on, to hang siding, you know. So I just want to point that out.
Randy, one of the other issues we talked about last time was the height of the building. You know,
Sure.
What's the height from the ground to the peak?
Well, I'm not real sure, because now that we've lowered the walls, it's gonna make the peak probably change.
Thought we're going 14-foot walls now?
Yes, sir.
And what kind of material is the roof gonna be?
Oh, it'll be steel. Yeah.
You have a drawing in here that shows it at 19 feet 6 inches. I mean, is that right, or?
19.6 to the peak of the?
That's what it shows.
Okay.
14-foot sidewalls, and then, it's like the last page in the packet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with this square facing we're gonna put on the front of it, you won't see the peak of the roof.
Sure.
I mean, that gives it the impression that the columns are holding up that
Right.
facing that comes off. Uh-huh.
Thank you.
And I might be able to make changes too on that. I don't know, just so that whatever it takes to accommodate a 14-foot high door, because my bus is 12 foot tall, and it's so, you know, that's why the height of the door kind of determines the height of the building, I guess.
Are you gonna set this building on concrete?
Oh, yes, sir.
Will you bring in a lot of gravel and elevate?
Oh, yes, sir.
So you'll elevate?
We're gonna do massive landscaping and stuff. You
So it'll
bet.
be- Okay.
You bet. Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Would anyone else like to speak? At this time, we'll close the public hearing. Does anyone have any more questions amongst the commission here that we need to discuss?
Well, I have mixed feelings about an oversized building in a neighborhood, and I've shared that in the past, I think, with the last vote or two we've had, but, this part of town is, I live in the north part of town, and I know it needs a little kick in the rear end. I mean, the neighborhood is run down, and this building might, it definitely would improve the building, it might even increase property values, I don't know. I'm kind of worried about sticking a barn-like structure in a neighborhood, but I think with what city staff has put together here, and some of the stipulations that they're asking, that it may soften it a little bit and make it a little less obtrusive than what I thought it might look like the last time. And I think, it'd be a little more house-like than barn-like possibly.
Yeah.
And he's got some visual barricades here, it looks like, it's gonna cover it up or hide it or whatever. Neighbors complaint, do we have any neighbors complaining at all?
No, not this time around. We had the one letter that I distributed up there, a letter of support for it. And to clarify, so what I wrote in the memo was just some broad recommendations. Those weren't necessarily things that I'm asking you to add as conditions. More of things that I wanted you to know what we were given to Randy to consider. So I don't think he was going with all of them, but like the landscaping drawing, I did that, but he was already way on board with a privacy fence next to the face and having wrought iron out front and some of the trees and landscaping.
So these things that you put in the document you sent us is not necessarily going to happen?
Those were our ideas to Randy and what would make us feel like it's would fit in a little better. So the way I try to present it as presented, I don't think we support it, but here's some things that would help it blend in. Doesn't mean we have to do all of them, but just some ideas to put out there for you guys to consider. Randy's obviously considered them. And so I think we kind of went from our submission to adding the landscaping and now the siding. So trying to make it a kind of a discussion.
I mean, where
Well,
the Bible said I'm gonna put that in. I mean,
Okay.
there's no if to it. I mean, if you want me to sign something,
And what would happen is if they want to pass it contingent on those conditions that you're offering, then it would be part of the motion, it would go in the ordinance as well, so.
Well, on that contingency, then I would support this project.
And Randy, were you looking at siding on just the front?
Well, that's about all you're gonna see.
Right, okay, I was just clarifying, so everyone knew, okay.
One
If it
big
was
problem
a wood
is,
structure, I'd be putting it clear around just for the no maintenance part of it, but,
Sure.
you know, but I'm going for the visual appeal, and that's all you're gonna see in the front.
one big problem I have is if we allow this building and it's, may improve that neighborhood, how could you turn down somebody down on South Emporia where they can't sell the lots off from doing the same exact thing?
Oh, you're talking about selling it separately,
No,
or, oh,
there's already a case, buying the lot beside and putting up a huge metal structure. We told them they couldn't.
that one meets our rules. South Emporia?
Yeah,
Yeah, they lowered theirs to what was allowable, which was 1,200. Because the two sizes they
Okay,
wanted were
what's
denied.
gonna stop somebody else from buying 2 lots, tearing down the houses? I want this large structure here and doing it all over town.
Well, as long as it's connected to your residence, first and foremost, so it has to be next to your house.
So you want a town full of large metal, oversized metal buildings?
But each one of those requires a special use permit.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they can't just do it, you know, and then that's when you take into account everything that we've discussed. I mean, that's kind of what we're here to do.
But if you let one do it, how can you tell the next one, no, you can't have this oversized building in a residential area?
There's different circumstances for every one of these.
And up to
Right?
this
I mean,
point, in the last 5 years, the largest we've approved is 1,500 square feet, which is part of the reason we amended the ordinances to allow a route to that 1,500 square feet. So it is still the 1,100 square foot larger than that maximum.
To me, on South Emporia, we had some complaints about it happening. To me, that had a lot of weight. I mean, Mr. Alberger owned 7 pieces of property there, and he didn't want to build. And to me, that meant a lot. We don't have it this time, for one thing.
True.
we actually have people in favor of it that would be directly impacted.
Well, most of the people in this neighborhood are all renters
And that's certainly true. A lot of my letters went to places that were not on Denver streets, to wherever the owners live.
I just think it's setting a bad precedence to let a building of that size be put in.
You know, I tend to agree with you, but you look at his house and his house is big and it doesn't stand out, you know? I mean, I don't know how tall your house is, but
35.
I was like, it's pretty tall, you know? And I mean, and it looks nice when you drive down the road. I mean, and it's really tall, so. And I guess, you know, if you don't have the building, you wouldn't build anything else there, would you? I mean, those would sit vacant. I mean, you're not gonna build
Yeah, I don't
houses
even
back
have so
there.
much- In a year's time now, I don't even have so much of the doghouse back there.
Well, I'm asking if this is, you know, if we vote against this, was there any other plans that you would have for that? You know, would you put homes in there?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. You know, according to.
Yeah, can you come up here, please? I'm sorry, that's my fault.
You know, I was ignorant to all the rules and regulations when I ventured into this thing. But now that I've learned how it all works, and check me if I'm wrong, but if I'd have left those 2 homes there before I demolished them, if I'd have left them there, then legally I would have been able to have gotten 2 1,500 square foot buildings behind them. Am I right? 1,200 square foot at the time. I could have built a 1,200 square foot building behind each one of them, then tore the houses down, and I'd have my 2,400 square foot of storage.
I can't speak to that. I mean, the way I understand our stuff is that you would still have to meet all the setbacks and that. So
Sure.
I'm not sure that you could fit a 1,200 behind one of those. And maybe, you know, Jay has a better idea. I'm not sure that And I don't know if you can tear the houses down and leave. I don't think you can do that, but, I mean, I'd be speaking out of turn. I don't know the code that well, so.
We prohibit that.
And that's what
The few cases we've had of a garage standing alone have been the case of a fire or something catastrophic that occurred outside of our control, and, yeah.
Well, anyway,
I got one more question. I'm looking at your map here. This north-south rectangular piece of property?
yes, sir.
Did you purchase that when you bought the two houses you
No,
demolished?
that's always been mine.
And is that easement, or what is that?
I believe there is some easement in there. I believe we have a sewer line back there.
Yeah, there's a sewer
Runs through the
line
mi-
that
that
runs
runs-
north and south.
Through the middle of the block, that's sewer?
Actually, it runs right almost up against my garage that's attached to my house. It's not down through the middle of that middle property.
So that property was vacant when you bought it, or did you tear something down then when you bought it?
No, that was part of my lot when I bought the
It was
place.
just-
It's just a weird looking lot. They've actually told me that I had like 2.5 lots that I bought. But that's been a kind of a sore spot with the neighborhood in that everybody's tried to buy that from me. It's because they don't have any backyards.
Right.
Everybody adjacent to me's wanted that. But nobody has come to me with a substantial offer other than,
Do you have it fenced off as well?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, full privacy fence, and that's what I'm gonna do with this, is full privacy fence, and, yeah. I'm all about security in that neighborhood. I mean, I'm gonna set up a burglar alarms and motion detector lights, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I wanna protect my investment. Hell, I just found a stolen bicycle on my lot just the other day, called the cops down. Somebody, I don't know who did it, but I suspect I know. But anyway, there's a kid's bike stolen, put back there in the very back corner of my 2 lots, waiting for the heat to come off, I think. Then you know what I mean. So I had to lock them out there and get that. I mean, it's bad. The neighborhood's bad. That's what I'm kind of, and I think if a guy starts getting some improvements, it might start forcing some of the riffraff out,
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak a little bit to that.
Okay, please approach that.
Sorry.
You're
Same
fine.
guy, that was my name before, it still is.
Yeah, you're good.
With respect to that sort of, I guess you'd call it, isolated island between, that'd be what, Taylor and Denver. There may well be a sewer through there. The sewer from, I can't use a pointer, Kenny, that you can see, but if you go north, skip a house.
Bob, maybe you can come around here, maybe you can point on this map here to us.
Sure, all right, fine. All right. This place I have. This sewer, this house, and the one down here on Denver and Fourth, all run to sewer here. I don't know about this place here, Scott. Thinks probably she runs this way to a main. I don't know. I think this remains to be seen. But number one, that's the sewer thing. And what else did I have to say here? I thought there was some relevance. Sorry.
Well, ultimately, I think that center lot's not buildable back there.
Definitely. I mean, it is isolated and dead space, so to speak.
My project actually makes getting to that main
Well,
back
yes.
there more accessible than what it is before. It's only been kind of a problem for people to get back in there.
Oh, yes, well, speaking of stolen bicycles, yes, okay, well, I don't really want to go into detail about that place there. The fact that it's still there is an unpleasantness. Okay, bottom line.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I know we've had many talks last
last few meetings about changing the code for the outbuildings and such. I'm very familiar with that area, because unfortunately and fortunately, I've been in almost every house in town working for Cox for 22 years. So I was in the houses that Randy tore down, and they were special. Anything that is done to that lot and almost a few properties around it are really a improvement to the whole neighborhood, even though it's not a new house. If it is aesthetically pleasing to the eye from the street, it can't help but improve the neighborhood, and unfortunately for the neighbors, it might raise their property taxes because it's gonna be an improvement overall in the structures in that area. I mean, it's just a strange situation for me because I'm not in favor of people putting great big airplane hangar sized buildings besides a lot in their neighborhoods where all the houses, it just doesn't fit. But in this situation here, I'm kind of leaning towards I'm in favor of it just because anything that's new would be an improvement in that neighborhood. And like Randy was saying, I mean, it could be the start of maybe somebody else, because eventually they can see another house or two that's gonna get the red sticker on it, and maybe, somebody will build something nicer because they'll have a brand new building right beside it instead of, from a landlord's perspective, if I had that lot, I wouldn't build anything there. It'd be too hard to rent. I mean, if I was renting it out, and it'd be darn hard to sell a house in that block if you was to build a brand new house. But if you have a new building sitting there and it's nice yard and all that stuff, I mean, it can't help but make the property values of the adjoining properties nicer and maybe attract people, like you said, to fix the place up and
Sure.
make it nicer.
There was a homeless guy living in the house on 410, North Denver at mine, the day we showed up to tear it down. If I hadn't gone in there and checked the house out, Hardin was ready to drop the roof on top of the guy. That's no joke.
I guess, Jay, I have a question, and I know we've discussed it before. It's for him, you're fine. That can't be sold individually, right? Or could it?
Before it's developed, he could sell off the 2 lots or the
Well, I'm
2
saying once the
pair, but
building's there.
No.
Okay. Okay.
But doesn't the building, the layout of the building straddle that property line?
It will, yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought.
We have so many of these older neighborhoods where it's combined lots, like even Randy's house is 2 lots over there. Yeah.
I got a question. About how many notices did you send out?
Probably 40-ish.
40?
It's a dense little area within the 200 feet.
No return.
Just the letter I gave you. No
Did,
phone.
was there any the last time we did this?
We had a couple phone calls, or I had someone stop in and one person call me that objected to it last time. And so I didn't.
But they were notified again, they didn't show up.
A few of the addresses changed as far as home ownership goes, because I was able to take the last mailer and then just update the addresses and names. And I don't remember if those people changed or not, but I haven't heard from them again.
Okay.
I think the letter I passed out, I think that that woman also supported it last time, I believe.
She owns the property just south of that, one of them empty lots, or?
I thought she was across the road.
She's across the street if she's a 405,
Okay, 405. It'd be the first house
House,
off the
yeah.
east-west
Yeah,
lot.
Yeah.
probably behind this box over here.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I guess if we don't have any further comment, do we have a motion either way? I know they had listed two, to approve or deny. And I know we had discussed adding, some conditions that are in that. I'm kind of on the fence. Sounds like a lot of people are all in the same position that, I definitely think it would improve the neighborhood. It's a really big building, but you're gonna be off the road and, you're gonna do things to where it doesn't stand out, that you seem to be trying to do everything you can
Yes, sir.
to do it, and I think there has to be some compromise, you know, on things that we do, so we definitely appreciate that.
And with the landscape and the siding discussion, we were considering those conditions because in the original submission, it was just the building. And so those were things we discussed, so rather than getting an updated site plan showing these things, these are just things that we've talked about and he's agreed to, so.
Sure.
So you've got the motion to approve, deny, approve with conditions, you can prove it as it is in the packet. You kind of have a few options.
Without knowing all the conditions, wouldn't we be kind of jumping the gun?
Well, the conditions would be, the lands, similar to what I put in there, that's what we had discussed. Now, we can get into more details about that, and that's fine. I think it's wherever the commission wants to go with it.
A big, real quick question, probably directed at Randy. I'm trying to think back, but is your house, does it have a flat roof on it?
Oh, pretty much.
The top story?
The top, it looks like a squash pyramid. It's not completely flat, but it's not enough gable where you can really see it.
But the building proposal that you're talking about would just, it'd be a normal gabled roof, but you're talking about putting a fake facade on it?
Yes, sir.
That's just flat?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this
So-
is for your own aesthetic purposes?
Yes,
that
sir.
you just wanted to
Yeah,
look a
and from a
certain
street view, it'll just look
Okay.
like a flat roof.
Okay.
Kinda like my house is.
Okay.
Well, I think, if this building is built and it's the size that it is, I think if it's softened a little bit, instead of made large, I don't, how important the columns are to you and all that, but we don't really want it to stand out and look, we want to drive by it and not go, look at that big building sitting there. Are the columns important to you? Is that, I assume
Well,
you've got a
I'm
picture of that.
a nut about
You've got it on there.
Roman architecture. I mean, that's the way my house looks over
Yeah,
on.
right.
And I just want it to match my house too. I'm just
Okay.
want it to fit in. I mean, I've had even people tell me they like my house on Taylor. I've had people tell me they hate it. They think I'm,
Maybe it's the dragons.
well, I've had mixed, opinions on that. I sure had a lot of fun with it. Get a lot of kids out there taking their pictures, petting that old dragon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can put a dragon up front? No.
There, yeah.
One dragon in the neighborhood.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess to move the discussion forward, I'll take a shot at a
Shoot it.
motion here. Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend denial of case number 19-02. Is that correct?
Yes.
19-02.
No,
Nine-
it's 01.
01,
It is
sorry.
The
01.
plat was 0.
This is our first special use permit.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, I'll start over. Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend denial of case number 19-01-SUP. Special use permit to allow 2,625 square foot accessory structure with 14-foot sidewall at 410 and 412 North Denver for the reasons set forth in the staff recommendation and heard at this public hearing.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion for denial. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
We have a second. We have a roll call vote. Mr. Shivers?
Commissioner Hackler,
No.
Commissioner Leeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
No.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Chairman Tetrick,
No.
Commissioner Watson.
No.
So that failed 2-4, the motion to deny.
Should've been 3-3, right?
Uh,
Didn't you vote
no.
no?
No,
He voted no, and I voted no.
We had 2 yeses.
Gerald, what'd you?
Gerald voted no.
He was no too, so
I
it's
had
4-2.
no.
Yeah. 2 voted to deny, 4 voted to not deny.
Good
Okay.
wording.
I'm all confused, but okay, I'll take your word for it. Oh, I'm on board now. The no's got me. I get it. Yeah, we're good.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
So now we need another motion.
I want to
So-
get the tricky one out of the way first.
Yes, so now we need a motion for approval since there was 4 no's for the denial. Okay, yes. Okay, do we have a motion for approval? But if we're gonna do that, do we need that stipulations on that motion? Is that how that
I'll put
works?
that in there.
Perfect.
Okay, Mr. Tetrick, I move to recommend approval of case number 1902 SUP, a request by Randy Ewart for a special use permit to allow 2,625 square foot accessory structure with 14-foot sidewall height on the property located at 410 and 412 North Denver Street. This proposal also includes stipulations that the building will include the conditions that will make certain improvements to the building to make it more fitting the neighborhood. For the reasons set forth by the staff recommendation and heard at the public hearing with the following conditions.
So to clarify the conditions as we discussed it?
Yes,
Okay.
as are listed, as we discussed tonight.
Okay, so the siding and landscaping.
And that 1901.
Conditions, I think, yeah, fencing, landscaping.
Okay. Well, there was a difference between what Mr. Ewart was offering and the 5 things I had listed. So I wanted to make sure I had it right.
Yes. I assume that he is going to do what you listed as in the proposal here?
Not all
Not
of them.
necessarily. Windows and doors.
Yeah, if you could, yeah, because
Yeah,
we don't have a
I'll
copy of
clarify.
that.
Sorry about that. All right, so the conditions we discussed, like the trees, landscaping, privacy fence, wrought iron fence, those are things that Randy was happy to do. Those are conditions he was willing to self-impose on it. And so that's the non-structural things. I threw out in the memo and the drawing here, like decorative doors or windows, matching building materials for the roof and walls. Mr. Ewart is willing to do the siding on the front of the structure to match his house. So there's slight differences, I mean, between the 5 things I listed and what Mr. Ewart's offering. Which of those 2 would you like to have as your conditions?
The second one, I guess, the second condition.
Okay, what Mr. Ewart's off,
Yes.
okay.
I would agree.
Do we need to go over that again?
I think we have it. I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a roll call vote. Mr. Shivers, please.
Commissioner Hackler,
Yes.
Commissioner Leeson,
No.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
No?
Chairman Tetrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes to recommend approval with the conditions of matching siding on the front wall of the building and the landscaping, fencing, and other things as discussed in the meeting. 4-2.
I bring up a comment. Did he read 1902?
The case number,
I said 01.
or,
You said 01? Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's 01. Yeah, we're good.
Okay,
He
sorry.
said 02, but he meant 01,
Yeah.
so we're good.
Yeah, you said 02,
I said 02?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, damn it.
but you're all right. It's 01. We're good.
It was my idea. I screwed it up for you, Coates. Don't sweat it.
Well, I screwed it up earlier because I started the whole mess, so it's my fault. All right.
I'll follow up with you then for the next meeting. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to item number 4, old business.
No old business.
No old business, perfect. Okay, item number 5, staff items.
All right, so to give you a brief update on the last city commission, the Brickley rezoning reviewed last month passed city commission, rezoning that agriculture land out by the turnpike to I-1. Your zoning amendments passed the city commission as well, so those will be effective as soon as Tabitha publishes the ordinance in the newspaper, which is pretty much any day. So that means I'll be updating our files as far as the actual Word documents and giving you guys some new ordinance information for that to update in your books. Next month, those of you that terms are coming to an end, I'll be contacting you with renewal forms if you'd like to carry on for another 3 years. Those decisions will be made in early May for the terms. Samuel McVeigh let me know that he's resigned his position recently. I told him it's difficult to find good planning commissioners, so I asked him to find someone and talk them into applying. He had some good people in mind, so I want to let you guys know if you have anyone who is willing and interested, you think would be a great planning commissioner, now's a great time to talk to them and submit an application. As you know, you guys are appointed by the city commission, so right now we have one. So if you guys have anyone, feel free to send them my way. And as part of the amendments that passed to our bylaws, we will have a Board of Zoning Appeals representative. I would have liked to appoint that person tonight, however, the Board of Zoning Appeals also has a couple renewals next month. One seat is outside city limits and one seat is in, so it's probably better to see which of those members stay or if both stay, so we know that what seats are available. So we make sure that if it's an in-town, we get an in-town, out-of-town, we get the right out-of-town. And with that, that's all I have.
I guess I have one more question.
Sure.
You kind of gave some updates on some ones we had recently. We had the one that was just over, kind of behind the old Food for Less. Did that one ever, they were rezoning to whatever the commercial business, the construction company was wanting.
Evanson's
Yeah.
property.
Oh.
Because
Yes,
did pass?
it did pass.
Okay,
yes.
well, because I heard he bought a different building, that's why I was asking.
Yes.
Okay,
I believe he still owns that one as well.
he does, but yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was clarifying. Okay, that's it.
Yep.
Well, if we don't have anything else, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.